You must remain true to the Taliban warlord.
Julie, how are you? Good morning.
Good morning, Benny. What a week. Another crazy week. Thanks for having me on TGIF.
Oh, TGIF is free for all Friday. Okay, so the president may speak at any time, so I just want to let you know we are going to be covering that press conference. He's not speaking yet, but was speaking earlier this week at the debate podium, where he was asked a question about January 6th. And Kamala Harris gave this performative, very, very canned and pre-scripted answer. This is probably why there's also like legs to this whole. She got the questions in advance because it really did read like a movie script. Like it really did read like a performance, but that's just speculation. Here's what's not speculation. Where was Kamala Harris on January 6th? Because she told the whole world I was at the Capitol.
Right. So this is very odd, Benny, and this just adds another layer of suspicion to the circumstances surrounding both pipe bombs that were discovered outside the RNC headquarters and then at the DNC headquarters within 25 minutes of each other on January 6th. She has intimated several times on the rare occasion she's asked about January 6th that she was at the Capitol. She was not at the Capitol. She had been at the Capitol earlier for a Senate intelligence briefing. She left for inexplicable reasons at 11:20 that morning, went to the DNC headquarters where her Secret Service detail missed the pipe bomb. Bomb sniffing canines missed the pipe bomb. Capitol Police, Metro Police, bystanders, passersby. We were told the device was planted the night before. Yet you had all of these law enforcement officials and agents who were looking around the area. She came within 20 feet of this alleged device, we were told by the Inspector General of the Department of Homeland Security. But here she is lying on the national stage saying she was at the Capitol, how terrifying it was when she was at the DNC from 11:20 until 1:17 when she was evacuated after the discovery of the pipe bomb. Why is she lying, Benny? Why is she never answered for the fact she left the Capitol not only as the incoming vice president, a sitting U.S. senator who was going to be part of the proceedings that day? We've never gotten an answer. All the Secret Service texts, as you know, have been deleted, which we have talked about. So was she part of the original hoax? Was she part of what was going to be a stunt to demand the evacuation of the Capitol that day so the proceedings would not continue, meaning the debate over the results of the election in contested states? So, but of course, Benny, there's no fact checking on that. She also lied about that police officers died on January 6th. No police officers died as a result of January 6th. Brian Sicknick tragically died January 7th after suffering a stroke. Had nothing to do with what happened on January 6th. More lies, cover up, and obfuscation. No fact checking, and I'm sure no reporter will follow up with her about what she said.
I want to just like take an opportunity to cut this as clean as we possibly can. Here is what Kamala Harris said about January 6th. There was a lot said on the debate stage. There's a lot of emotions going around. Here is the very short clip of what she actually said.
The question was about you as president, not about former Speaker Pelosi, but I do want Vice President Harris to respond to it.
I was at the Capitol on January 6th. I was the vice president-elect. I was also an acting senator. I was there. And on that day, the president of the United States incited a violent mob to attack our nation's capital, to desecrate our nation's capital. On that day, 140 law enforcement officers were injured, and some died. And understand, the former president has been indicted and impeached for exactly that reason.
Okay, so I want to just preface this by saying that what Kamala Harris is doing here makes no sense from an animalistic standpoint, because what she's doing is feeding the victim position where MAGA terrorists planted a pipe bomb that could have harmed me or my Secret Service.
Right.
And I walked within minutes of it. That is the thing that that is the thing that breaks my brain. All right, I don't pretend to be an expert on this, Julie, but these people never miss an opportunity to call themselves the victim. Her entire DNC speech is about her being a victim. Her entire DNC speech is about how, like, Michelle Obama. Oh, we're so upset when people take more than they deserve, says the lady with 7 private island homes, mansions. I'm saying that it's in there. It's hard coded in their DNA that they must claim victimhood status at every opportunity. And yet there is Kamala Harris's perfect opportunity to look Trump in the eye and go, your supporters planted a bomb.
Right.
That don't got me. Right. And she misses it. Makes no sense.
That's such a great point. I mean, why hasn't she said specifically over and over for 3.5 years? I was almost assassinated by a MAGA bomber on January 6th. I came within 20 feet of this device. They tried to kill me, a sitting U.S. senator, in first female woman of color vice president ever in American history. And the FBI, let's go back to the details too. Why is she not angry that the FBI, despite all of the resources it is still using, Benny, to investigate, arrest, and prosecute J6 protesters? We still had new arrests this week, believe it or not. Why isn't she outraged that the FBI has then identified the MAGA pipe bomber who almost took her life and the lives of those around her and her Secret Service detail? It's the same thing. Why isn't Gretchen Whitmer livid at the FBI for their involvement in getting these men, alleged kidnappers, to try to kidnap and kill her? So the misplaced anger, the lies, the cover up, really, again, just raises questions about really what happened with this pipe bomb situation, both at the DNC and RNC. But yes, why hasn't she talked about her victimhood? And why, when asked directly, does she continue to misrepresent where she was and what she did? And why won't one reporter ask her, why did you leave the Capitol at 11:20 and go to the DNC and stay there until 1:17? Joint session of Congress started at 1 o'clock. Why didn't she go back? So, I mean, this is just more list of questions for her. In addition, Benny, let's keep in mind, on the night before the 23rd anniversary of 9/11, to remember that Kamala Harris has compared January 6th to 9/11. That alone is disqualifying for anyone who thinks that they want to be president of the United States. What an outrage. What an insult to the loved ones of the nearly 3,000 individuals murdered that day. So what
we're seeing here on the screen from your footage is Kamala Harris arriving at the DNC.
Correct.
This is the hard physical evidence to prove exactly where she was and to prove that she lied on the debate stage. Yes?
Correct. And we also have footage from Will Pope that shows security surveillance video footage from the Capitol showing her leaving at 11:20. Yes. Now, of course, this is just a few blocks away from the Capitol, but those are her security detail. The bomb, which of course, again, we don't have video of the location where the pipe bomb was found, but it's just to the right of that screen. There were 2 benches outside the exterior door. You could see those officers walking from the direction of where the pipe bomb was allegedly planted and found. How did they miss it? It was under a shrub between these 2 bushes. It wasn't like it was buried deep in the hedges. I mean, once it was allegedly discovered, the photo that we were shown shows that it's pretty obvious. So how did all of those agents, and this is after 3 hours, Benny, of DC Metro, Capitol Police, other law enforcement agencies had been in and out of that area prior to her arrival. So that just speaks to other video that we've showed and I've talked about with you. At 12:51 p.m., 10 minutes before the joint session of Congress began, an individual, unidentified individual, gets out of a DC Metro SUV. He has a backpack on. He walks out of the frame, exactly where I'm saying, to the right of where this video footage ends. He walks out of that frame 2 minutes later, right to the vicinity again, where this bomb was allegedly found, walks back into the frame and gets back in the SUV. That seems to suggest this individual planted this stunt device A device the FBI said was viable and deadly, by the way, which of course it wasn't, that perhaps it appears that this individual put that device there and then was discovered about 10 minutes later by a plainclothes Capitol Police officer.
So the entire thing was a hoax. This is your professional investigative opinion. That this was a hoax that was set up, perhaps. I mean, the utility of this would be, and in case you need any further proof, here's Kamala Harris actually leaving the Capitol building. Like amazing how this footage actually exists. And David Muir didn't watch this clip. He fact checks whether Donald Trump was being sarcastic enough in his commentary about losing by a whisker, but he won't fact check this. Well, I've seen the footage, and I'm going to fact check your sarcasm, sir. It's frauds. It's just scum. It's just so despicable. These jackasses. But here we go. This is you're not able. This is Kamala Harris leaving before January 6th, the Capitol. There's no emergency. She's walking out. There she is, right. Plain as day. And so I guess the next question that must be asked here is, what was the utility of this plot? Was the utility of this plot to say that there was terrorism, that regardless of what happened that afternoon, there was going to be like some type of terrorism element to it that was fabricated by the feds?
Well,
to smear Trump, was that it?
Well, look, the Democrats and people like Mitch McConnell wanted the proceedings of January 6th to stop, not the certification process. This is so important that people need to recall. You had senators and House members of the House under the Electoral Count Act allowed one senator, one House member. They were going to take about 12 hours, Benny, to publicly vet all of the voting and election fraud in those contested states. They were going to call for, they had 14 or 16 senators, if I recall correctly, who were going to call for a 10-day audit of the electoral outcomes in those states. Nancy Pelosi didn't want that. Mitch McConnell begged his Republican caucus not to engage in that, warned on the floor before this started, this would be a huge mistake to spend the next several hours vetting the election fraud and calling for this 10-day audit. It is the Democrats and Never Trump Republicans who wanted the proceedings of January 6th shut down. So let's just game this out. She's at the DNC. It already had prompted the discovery of the pipe bomb, had already prompted evacuations or lockdowns of nearby congressional buildings. As you know, not everyone works in the Capitol building. There's Senate buildings and there's House buildings. So just imagine that, and this is what people like Dan Bongino have called Plan A. Oh my gosh, Kamala Harris is at the DNC. A pipe bomb was found there. A pipe bomb was found outside the RNC. This is a few blocks from the Capitol. We have to shut down the Capitol. We have to evacuate the Capitol. We can't have these proceedings begin. This all happened around the same time at 1 o'clock. But turns out maybe it was too risky of a plan. And then they didn't need it because they had the breach teams, including Ray Epps, who had already breached the exterior lines about 12:53. So all of this is happening at the same time. So as you have protesters coming in, you have agitators coming in, whether they're people like Ray Epps or confidential human sources from the FBI who we know were there embedded in these militia groups. So then it just kind of took on its own course. So maybe then they abandoned the whole, we have to evacuate the Capitol because of these pipe bombs. We just don't know. And we can't know because, as I said, the text belonging to 24 Secret Service officials, including the director, including people like Kim Cheadle, who was on the Protective Services Bureau at the time on January 6, 2021, all those texts were deleted, purged for good, never recovered. So we can't hear what the Secret Service agents, both at the Ellipse or the White House, or certainly the DNC, were saying about all the events as they were unfolding. We also don't have records and documents. They've refused to turn over. The Secret Service and DHS has refused to turn over records to the Inspector General, who filed his report indicating that she had been within 20 feet of this alleged device. So the mystery continues, and now her talking about it, lying about it, even amplifies and I think really demands more congressional action about this DNC and RNC pipe bomb. The suspect never identified, charged, or certainly convicted. Still at large, this MAGA pipe bomber, Benny.
Yeah.
Another thing, and one other, I know I keep adding to this. The J6 committee, Benny Thompson told Representative Tom Massey, the J6 committee never investigated what happened with the pipe bombs. They never interviewed the people, including the woman who allegedly found the one at the RNC. They didn't even cover this. He had no idea what Tom Massey was talking about when he was showing some of this video. Why, when the January 6th report, 837 pages, mentions the pipe bomb 5 times. That's it. It was completely buried. So kudos to some in the House Republicans who are starting to let this footage be made available, and also some other records and suspicious surroundings. But we need to do a lot more to find out everything that happened, including why Kamala Harris went there and why she stayed there.
It's going to be some speculation on your part, but maybe you could answer sort of a lingering question for me, which is, what do you think is inside of those Secret Service messages that would be so damning? And I'm aware that we probably will never know. They are somewhere. You know what I mean? Like they do exist somewhere, right? And so there could be a moment where you get the right administration, we find them. However, they clearly must have shown something that did not align with the script. And so what do you believe they would show?
I mean, maybe they would demonstrate the orchestration between the Secret Service and other law enforcement agencies, including Capitol Police and including DC Metro, to put sort of this whole operation together at the DNC, at least, perhaps even at the RNC, where the pipe bomb was discovered around 1240 by a government contractor, a woman named Carlin Younger. We'll have a lot more reporting on this. She worked for FirstNet, which is the public-private partnership of first responders. She was very involved in the law enforcement community in Washington, D.C. She just happened to find the pipe bomb as she was going to do her laundry. And Dan Bongino said he talked to a whistleblower who said that he thinks the person who found the pipe bomb was a government contractor. Well, was she part of this operation? We don't know, because she's only been interviewed by the FBI once. The J6 committee never interviewed her. And I think there's some pressure to get her in for another interview. So what would those Secret Service text, in the best case scenario, how they missed this device, right? All of their back and forth. How did we miss this? We had canines. We had all of these officers and agents. What happened? Or the dark side of it is that it shows, now what we know, Secret Service, an agency that with crumbling credibility, taking some sort of a role in putting this pipe bomb hoax together.